Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to talk about the Tony Franklin signature fretless precision bass. I don't normally talk about basses on this channel too often, but this thing was just so beautiful I had to document it. So first off, who is Tony Franklin, in case you're not familiar with his work? So he's an English rock musician known as the Fretless Monster. Very apropos because look at his signature bass. No frets, there's no fret markers, there's nothing. You just get your side dots. So this is going to be a real struggle for me to try to play, but he has mastered it. So for me personally, I'd never heard his name before, but when I did some research on him, it's like, oh, okay, so he's part of this. He also did that. So his first big break came with the band The Firm. Their big hit single was called Radioactive. And if that doesn't ring a bell for you, type it in on YouTube. You've heard that song somewhere before. Did you know Jimmy Page was part of that? I had no idea. But he's played with people like Roy Harper, Paul Rogers. He was with Whitesnake for a little bit. And he also joined John Sykes in Blue Murder. So he's done a bunch of different stuff, and he's really cultivated his own little niche here with a fretless bass. So what is he up to today? Well, he's a session musician. I mean, you can still book things with him on his website, fretlessmonster.com. He's still actively touring where it's safe. He teaches bass in a master class, and he even has his own YouTube channel that you can check out. So if you're interested in learning more about him, maybe check him out on his own channel. He's got lots of videos and demos with this exact bass and his old ones as well. But let's learn a little bit more about this signature bass. So Fender first released this model in early 2006, basically as his first signature bass and a replica of the one that he was known for using. They were available in black and sunburst, and in my opinion, I never saw them because they weren't all that attractive to me. They were just kind of regular P basses without frets. There's not much for me to talk about on that show or to stand out to me. But then, 14 years later, in 2020, they released this new Lake Placid blue color, and it caught my attention. This is one beautiful bass. Between this new slightly sparkly metallic blue finish and matching headstock, they also have this nice grayed out tortoiseshell looking like pickguard. It's just such beautiful colors on this thing. I had to buy it to document. And these things retail at $1,699 yet today, but what are our special features here? So first off, for the blue one, you get the matching headstock. It's its own signature thing without any fret markers or anything. Because I've had a fretless guitar before, but that at least still had the lines where the frets would be, because you actually have to play on where the frets are for a fretless thing. So I'll see what I can do. If not, check out Tony on his channel. He'll show you how to use it. But besides the obvious, this is a P bass, so they've actually added an additional jazz bass style pickup right here. But what I love is you don't have that annoying jazz bass setup, at least in my opinion it's annoying, where you just kind of blend each of them in with a volume knob. You actually have, a standard control right here. So you can select the front ones, both of them, or just your back one. It might not seem that special to guitar players, but that is such a cool feature that I like on this thing. It makes it easier to demo. On top of that, these pickups were specially wound just for him, so they're signatures to this bass. And the last thing actually hides on the back of the headstock. When I ordered this thing, I did not even realize it had this. This is one of those bass extender drop D tuner things. Basically what you do is you flip this down and then you automatically go to drop D or whatever you set it as. You can actually set the tension, so you could potentially go even lower. The first time I've ever seen one, but we'll take a look at that a little bit more on the workbench. So all in all, pretty cool bass, not what you would normally see out there. A bunch of special features, but let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and learn a little bit more about its individual parts and specs. Inside this bass, here's what we got going on underneath the pickguard. The P-bass pickups in here are actually his own signature from Fender. They call them the Fender American Split Style Single Coil pickups. They're nothing too fancy to look at. They've got these little blocks on the back to help set the height adjustment, but you can see through to the windings. I thought that was kind of cool. Be careful not to nick those on anything. But the other one's pretty much the exact same thing here. And the bridge pickup, if you look really closely, you can see it actually says DiMarzio on it right there. So it's not a Fender signature pickup, but it is Franklin's signature pickup with DiMarzio. So this is actually a ceramic coil pickup called the Tony Franklin Single Coil Jazz. You can see it has like a super glue substance over top of the wires. And the only other special thing about this guy is that they are hex pole pieces. As far as the bridge itself, it secures to the body with 5 screws, and this is not a string through style instrument. It's a top loader only. And I was surprised to find out that they actually use his signature string set on this bass too. They range from a .045 all the way up to a .105 as far as the gauge goes. But nothing too fancy with this bridge. I don't even see any markings on it. As far as the routes themselves, just pretty basic stuff here. You can see it's marked Tony Franklin bass and Lake Placid blue. And another little barcode right here. And even though this has a 2019 serial number on it, you can see it was probably close to completion really early in January in 2020. So this was one of the earliest ones that they made, I would say, because I remember I pre-ordered this. As far as the pickguard, you can see another identifying mark right there, and a three-way toggle switch as we were talking about before. That's kind of unique to these things. And it looks like CTS pots here, master volume, master tone, with an output jack on the front. And they call this black Moto. Moto standing for mother of toilet seat. So it's kind of like a pearloid material that's in a black. I think it matches really well with the ebony fretboard and this blue body. But the bass itself is actually alder. I cannot see anywhere that we can actually see through to the wood, unless if you zoom in right there on one of the screw holes. But as far as truss rod access goes, you can actually get that without even removing the pickguard on this model because they've sculpted it out so you can do that. There you can see what I'm talking about again now that everything's back installed. So let's go ahead and grab these pickup readings. Looks like these guys are rocking 10.88 k ohms, both pickups together, 4.15. Then this guy right here, 6.52. Now here's a really cool thought. This is not a poly-finished guitar, it's a nitro. So that means as this thing ages, it will turn green. How cool would that be to see one of these turn green? I think somebody could actually make some money doing some aging to one of these things and then sell it for like $2,500 because, you know, it's still the original finish, but it's became green. But that means you can also get finish checking. This will wear down real nicely. So 40, 50, 60 some years down the line, I think these things will look even cooler than they do yet today. But that's enough talk about the body, I think. Let's go ahead and move on to this. How freaky is that? Cleaning this thing and oiling it was such a nice treat. There's no frets in the way. So this is a maple neck with an ebony fretboard, and it utilizes a 9.5-inch radius on this thing, up and down. It's just so alien and bizarre in a fretted instrument world to find an unfretted one. But something I thought was a little bit was it looks like the strings are actually touching down on this one area that is finished over in lacquer, and it's kind of chipped it a little bit. Now thankfully, when the strings are on here, you don't see that. So I don't think it's a big fault, but then again, this is my first fretless bass. Maybe that's just commonplace. As far as neck specs here, our nut width is 1.65 inches. Then around our 12th fret, 2.26. First fret neck depth, 0.86. And by the 12th, 0.97. And I would say this is a 34-inch scale length bass. And once again, all you have to go off of are these dot markers on the side. Some fretless instruments will have the stripes down there, so you can at least tell where you're supposed to be. But if you're an absolute mad lad professional, it's nice to not have that. I mean, it definitely is a striking look. But as far as our face to the headstock, completely matching headstock here, which I think looks cool. It says Precision Bass, made in USA, and Fender, with one disc string tree. Moving on to the back, we don't have too much going on here because it's not a string-through bass, so nothing on the back except for this nice big cutaway. And you've got Tony Franklin's signature on the neck plate. Moving up here, it's just a C-shaped neck. You've got maple wood grain, nothing too fancy here until you get to this D tuner. So essentially how this thing works is your tuner is mounted on a plate. You can kind of see it right there. And what happens is when you hit this lever, this moves down. And then it stops at a certain point because this little screw hits right there, and that's what stops it. So you can hear it ringing out. Now most people use this for like instant drop D tuning, so if they're in a gig they need to change for it to the next song, or maybe even within a song, it's so easy to do that. But if you need to drop further than D, you can fine tune it. I mean, right now I almost have it all the way. I think from the factory it was set up somewhere around here, so I'm sure you'll have to do some fine tuning to get that to be perfect. But an interesting feature, if you only have one bass, it's your main one, and you have multiple tunings, and you don't want to have to stop the show to get a different guitar or whatnot. So it's an interesting spec that I was not even expecting on this bass. All said and done, this one weighs 8 pounds 13 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and try to get a tone demo out of this thing. Now that we know all about the Tony Franklin signature bass, what are my final thoughts on this thing? You know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be to demo this thing. I actually ended up quite enjoying it. I just hopped over to his YouTube channel for some inspiration, just to kind of see how he plays this thing. And once I learned a few of his little riffs, I was actually having a pretty good time with this thing. So if you're like me and you're petrified of the thought of a fretless bass, give it a try. You might actually end up liking it. It kind of feels like playing a piano, but only on the white keys because there's not markers for all the other frets. So it's like I just kind of stay within those dots and I can fake it. But overall, a really beautiful bass. Check one out if you happen to be at a music store that has one. Otherwise, you know, spending $1,700 just to try a fretless bass, that might not be for everyone. As far as quality control, I didn't really notice anything too crazy, and the tones out of this thing, it was a very versatile bass. So give it a try if you want. If you purchase one of these brand new, you do get a hard shell case, so that's nice. You get 2 locking latches on either side and 1 clasp in the middle. And it's just a black Tolex exterior. It has a Fender badge right there, but inside it's just a complete black color. It holds the bass pretty well. But what really impressed me on this one was the case candy you get. So yeah, you get the COA like you normally do. You get a little Fender hang tag for the case, online guitar lessons, silica packets, case key, but take a look at this. Not only do you get the cool Fender branded truss rod adjustment tool and the warranty information, but they give you like a legitimate heavy-duty cable on this thing that's also branded Fender. I was not expecting that, and maybe it's just because I haven't bought a bunch of basses, but that was impressive to me. Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed getting to take a look at this Fender Precision bass, the signature of Tony Franklin. And hey, thank you for watching this one, because I know my bass videos aren't that popular, but I wanted to do this one anyways, because it's just too cool not to. Thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.